Apologies for the slight delay, but we're ready to get underway. Senator Justice, you can take it away whenever you're ready.
Well, everybody, I appreciate you being here and everything, and I've got me some notes and whatever, but I don't look at many notes. I just speak to you and tell you the truth, and that's what we'll go through a whole lot of today. And I hope and I welcome your questions, and I'm tickled to death to hear from you. But with all that being said, I want to lead off by just saying we lost a really dear friend, a really good man, a man that was a pioneer in many ways, Kenny Bass. You know all the investigative reporting that he did and all the goodness. Started out really sports guy and then went into a news guy and everything. And but what an amazing man. And I hate it so much for Claire. And he loved his little dogs, and sure loved Claire. And I just hate it. Doggone. I mean, we lost him. He's way too young and way too energetic, and what a resource for the state of West Virginia. So please keep that family in your prayers. But nevertheless, let me just tell you a little bit about what's going on up here. In my world, I'm probably the most impatient guy in town all the time. And this shutdown to me is the most ridiculous thing on the planet. To be perfectly honest, it's shameful. It's selfish. It really would make you mad if you were here, because there's hundreds of thousands of people that are out there that are really hurting. And I'll tell you a little story about that in just one second. But I really believe, and if this were a Republican issue, you know me well enough to know that I would tell you that, but this issue, in my opinion, lies right on the backs of the Democrats. It's a way for them to have a cause to run on in the midterm re-elections. You see, Trump has been so successful, so unbelievably successful, and we hope and pray that continues, that they don't have anything to grab onto, whether it be the border or the tax cuts or whatever it may be. It is success like you can't imagine, and I am super supportive. But with all that said, really, what are the Democrats doing? They're absolutely holding America hostage. It is so shameful, in my opinion, and so selfish. And I don't even know where we're going from here. Now it's developed into a level of food fight, and I don't like that on either side. Now it's developed into a stalemate that I don't know where we're going to go. And with all that being said, on top of that and everything, I've got to tell you the story like I promised, just a second, and it won't take but a second. But I'm going down the hallway, and over the years I've been broke up a little bit with my knees just being completely non-functional. So I'm riding on my little scooter, and we go by a lady that's talking on the phone, the custodian here at the Capitol. And she's saying, well, I just can't take talking to her really if she's crying, because it makes me really sad. Well, I went around the little corner, and one of the guys with me told me kind of what she had said. So I went back, and I went to her and I said, what's going on? And she said, that herself and this lady that she was talking to were not getting paid, and they didn't know what to do. And then, and so I got off my little scooter, and I said, let me tell you something. I don't like what's going on, and I don't know that I can fix it, but I am trying everything I can possibly do to try to help, everything I can do. And I just hugged her. she started crying like crazy and everything. And really, it is so blooming sad. I mean, it is awful what is going on here. And so I don't know what we do. I don't know what the next move on the chessboard is, but really and truly, we got to some way, somehow get to some civility. We got to get this thing across the finish line and open this government back up, and for crying out loud, quit doing this crazy stuff. We got to be respectful of one another. I've promoted that all along. It doesn't matter really to me if you're a Republican or Democrat. I've got my conservative views. But really and true, at the end of the day, why in the world can't we be respectful? Why can't we listen to ideas? Why can't we move the ball? Because we're here, and you've heard me say this a million times, we're here for Toby and Edith. You know me, for crying out loud. I got white hair. I came here when I was 73 years old. Do you really think I'm coming here to want something for me? You know, the only reason I'm here is you. That's all there is to it. And it's a lot of work, and there's lots of days that it is absolutely so frustrating it's off the chart. I'll keep the battle. I'll keep the battle in every way for you. Now, good things that happened yesterday. We went to a Bitcoin kind of, stable coin, cryptocurrency, conference. And I spoke there. And really, believe it or not, one of the requests was, will you please bring Baby Dog, of all things. I only bring her probably once every 7 to 10 days because she gets so out of gas, she just can't do it. There's no way. But nevertheless, I brought her, and David Sachs from the White House, was there, and David really is explaining to all of us and everything, and knowledge about the cryptocurrencies and everything. But I am really supportive, and I want us to, and David was more really and truly. I met David more at an ag committee meeting, where there were 6 of us in that ag committee meeting, and really we were talking about the 6 folks that probably know more about the crypto world than anybody else on the ag committee. And really we've got to some way find a way to bond the SEC and the commodities end to make it all go together, because really what we need on the crypto world today is we need for Toby and Edith at some point in time to understand what's going on there, and then really we'll know we're there, and we'll know that it is absolutely a great thing for America when Toby and Edith can be in Walmart and have a card and they can use it without being tagged, 3% charges and everything from banks and this and that and everything. And I'm a real promoter of banks, don't get me wrong there. But this is a way of the future. We want to make sure that everybody's protected. We want to make sure that the bad actors, can't come into play. We absolutely have to regulate this. But if America has control versus China or Russia having control, we'll absolutely do it and do it right as best we possibly can. But you can see it was a great meeting and everything, a great conference, and at the end of the day, to be perfectly honest, probably I was overshadowed by Baby Dog, but that's okay. But there's so many different things going on. Like I said, we had a great conference, with the ag folks that are really dialed into this and everything. And I can say that our president is really dialed into it, because he's a real believer that this could solve a lot of issues. It could actually even in some ways really help us with the national debt. There's so many things here that are at play, and that's why I say, why do we need to keep with the nonsense? So I've run my mouth enough and everything. Let me take some of your questions and see if I can give you some good answers on that stuff. Guys, I'm waiting on y'all, and I can't hear anybody. So,
We will go to Mary Kay McFarland for first question.
okay, very good.
Apologies, Governor. I'm Henry Colby House with Mountain State Spotlight. I'm using my boss's Zoom account. Just real quick, we had a story run today about a lot of the people that are facing this issue of the food stamps potentially running out. I was just wondering, what kind of steps are you personally taking to try to resolve this deadlock so these folks can get their food stamps? Because these people are pretty desperate, and from talking to them, they really don't care whose fault it is. They just want something done.
No, I get it. And all I can tell you is just this: that I do not think that the president nor anyone here will let that really happen. All I can tell you, though, is an opinion. I'm one of 100, and really and truly, all I can give you is an opinion. It would be terrible for that to happen, because you're right. They don't care. People don't care if it's the Republicans or Democrats' fault, but they absolutely have to have these dollars, the SNAP benefits. They have to have them, and if they don't have them, the families are going to get really, really, really hurt, and they don't know what in the world to do. What are they going to do? What in the world are they going to do? I mean, it's terrible. It's just plain out and out terrible. And, and I'm trying to do everything I possibly can. There's senators here, that are, have developed bills and everything. And I'm signing on because really and truly, I just can't stand to see good people get hurt because of this nonsense that's going on here. So I'm in it, and I'm in it in every way, and we're just going to stay after it. I just can't really believe that at the end of the day, what's going to happen here is we're going to do something to hurt those folks. So that doesn't really mean a whole lot right now, but trust me, B, I'm wholeheartedly in it.
Mary Kay McFarland, go ahead if you have your question.
That was the question.
Okay, perfect. We'll go to Bob Aaron next. Bob, you are muted. You're still muted.
Governor, do you think the pay measure today is going to pass? Does it have a chance? How do you get out of this deadlock? Is the so-called nuclear option on the table? And we'd like to thank you for your kind remarks about Kenny.
Now, Bob, please ask the beginning of your question one more time, because I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry.
There's a pay measure expected to come up for a vote today, I understand, in the Senate. Do you think it's got a shot? How are we going to get out of this deadlock? And is the so-called nuclear option, where the 60 vote requirement would change, is that a possibility, or what are we looking at here?
Well, Bob, do I think it'll pass today? The pay measure part, I do not. There's a lot of conversations behind closed doors and everything, and a lot of people that are really trying. A lot of people are really working, and then you got a lot of people that are on soapboxes saying, "Well, by God, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and everything else," and we're going to go the nuclear option, whatever it may be, and it may have to come to that, Bob. It really may have to come to that, because, but everyone knows, that today that that may be successful today, but here's the reluctancy that, down in the future, they know if all of a sudden, the table was shifted in the future and everything, it could come back to bite them. And so then nobody will move. And I really believe that, from a pay measure standpoint, I do not think it'll pass today. I think what'll happen is the talks behind closed doors will continue. I really think that ultimately the leader of the band, President Trump, will surface and in a really strong way, and then I think we'll get a resolution to this. You know, to me, and this is how silly, but if we extended the deadline of those benefits in regard to, you know, the benefits, you know, with the insurances and all those, you know, tax credits and everything, and subsidies and everything towards that, if we extended that deadline 6 months, a year, gave people a little bit longer runway, you may think, well, that'll solve it. But really, what's going to happen then is the Democrats turn right back around and they say, oh, no, that won't solve it. You know, we're just running our mouth about all that. That won't solve it. You know, really what will happen then is we still want, you know, $1.5 trillion of stuff. Well, it is so preposterous and so ridiculous, it's off the chart. So Bob, I don't hold out a lot of faith for today. I hold out a lot of faith, you know, that when President Trump really, really gets involved in a really strong way, we'll move the dial and we'll get off this and everything. We're going to have to do something, you know, and to give folks a little bit longer runway in regard to all those benefits that we had in place and everything, you know, in regard to their insurances and everything, we probably need to really look at that. But beyond that, a lot of this stuff is totally ridiculous.
Let's go to Stephen Allen Adams. And this is unfortunately our last question. We have another senator lined up right behind us. Hopefully in the future we can book a little bit longer time. But last question to Stephen Allen Adams.
Okay, Stephen.
Well, since it's my last question, I know a number of reporters have done stories about this, Mike Toney, Brad McElhenney. Do you have any comment in regards to some of these new IRS tax issues and state the tax division liens that have been placed on some of your businesses? I know this has happened before, but of course these IRS liens are directly against you and the former First Lady, Kathy Justice. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to address those issues that have been reported about by Politico. Thank you.
No, Stephen, you know, listen, I think you've always been kind and, you know, and really you have every right to ask those questions. I wish to goodness that I could, you know, talk for a long time about this and everything, but the net of everything that I've told you guys all along, I mean, our businesses are complicated and complex. There's lots and lots. There's 100+ companies and you know, and Jay and Jill are doing a magnificent job and running them and everything, and they employ thousands and thousands of people, and that's all really good stuff. But in that, from time to time, you've got disputes. You know, this goes all the way back to, believe it or not, 2009. In 2009, out of the clear blue sky and everything, we had sold, we'd sold Bluestone to the Russians, and we'd sold it for a lot of money and everything, and they said, well, we're going to audit you. Well, they did. They audited us, and that's great. This all started really in 2010, but they audited 2009. And they couldn't find anything. And so then they said, no, we're not going to close the audit. We're going to audit 2010. And then, no, we're not going to close. We didn't find anything in 2010. We're going to audit 2011. No, we didn't find anything in 11, and it wouldn't ever close the audit. So it went 11, 12, 13, and 14. And through that time, we had refunds that we filed for. We paid over $220-some million in taxes. And we filed for refunds because at that point in time, the coal market was so bad and the companies were losing lots and lots and lots of money. So we filed for refunds. Today, I've still never received my refunds. And my refunds are well in excess. Well, the principal was $27.5 million, but the refunds dollars are probably, with interest and everything, could reach $40 million. So then what they said is, no, we're going to deny that for this time and everything, when really and truly, I was notified by our attorneys that it should show up in the mail tomorrow or the next day. And then the next thing is we're going to deny those things because, lo and behold, the Biden administration's in. Jim's running for the Senate. If you don't think these are political moves, you're crazy. You're just so crazy, it's unbelievable. And then the timetable is running out, on a claim that they have that back in 2009 that I should have paid a few dollars more than what I paid. So then what they just did is they said, we're going to go back to 2009 and we're going to assess you interest and penalties on that all the way through, and that's how they come to the dollar that they are today. And still, all I can say to you is just simply just this. When all this is said and done, I will promise you to God above that what will happen is Jim will end up with significantly more dollars from the IRS than what we owe the IRS. It's just a situation we got to go through. It's more of a political move, but at the same time, it's just a situation that big companies deal with all the time. You saw all the stuff that President Trump dealt with. At the end of the day, I'd say just let it be and see how it all plays out.
Thank you, everyone, for your time today. We have another senator knocking on the door, but we are looking to make this a little bit more standard procedure here with this style format. So be on the lookout for our next invite, and we appreciate you all coming in today.
And guys, I'm sorry we didn't get to everybody. Sorry.